What's up, Outliers? Quick market update. Got two things on the agenda for today. The first one is going to be SIRI, and then the second one is going to be GameStop. So I got an email from Jacob, and they were essentially asking about some unusual options activity that they were hearing or coming across in SIRI. And then there's speculation, obviously, if it's Roaring Kitty. That's one of the things I've definitely started to learn about the community, is that as soon as anything even potentially related to something strange kind of immediately gets questioned whether or not it's Roaring Kitty, and rightfully so, because of the way that the dude operates. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And also because the way that the cat likes to kind of be mysterious, right? And that leads so much room for speculation. So I know some people get a little frustrated with other people when they're like, stop thinking it's Roaring Kitty or whatever. But I would just say, one, who knows? And two, it's kind of the way that the game goes, at least as far as I could tell. I still consider myself very new to the overall GME ape space. I'm learning more and more every day, but it doesn't surprise me, especially when you realize that most of Roaring Kitty's communication modalities are super vague, right? It'll be a string of emojis from a Missy Elliott video. I can't even say it seriously. It's so crazy. Meanwhile, this dude is like a billionaire. So hilarious. But anyways, it doesn't surprise me. So let's start with taking a quick look at SIRI. There's a ton of focus on this for a bunch of different reasons. I think it's becoming tangentially related because of the emojis, and people are interpreting them, some of them, to mean SIRI. And again, who knows? But the real big idea right now in SIRI is the holding company, Liberty, is going through a giant reorg in terms of the way that it's holding its various assets. So there's kind of a quasi merger coming up. I wouldn't even really call it a merger, because SiriusXM is already there, but it's just held in different kinds of share classes, and they're just looking to join them. But there's a discrepancy between those two values. So there is a little bit of a merger arbitrage opportunity, which I'm very careful to frame it as merger arbitrage, because standard arbitrage is when you have the opportunity to trade the same product on two different exchanges simultaneously to take advantage of a price discrepancy, which is not the case here. This is essentially taking advantage of a price discrepancy between two holding valuations of the same asset, but the risk profile is different because the deal essentially is structured, could not go through, there could be changes, the timeline could change, one company could completely change the way it's doing business, yada, yada, yada. So it's just important to know that there's a slight difference in the way that those kinds of trades would flow through. So anyways, that's kind of what we're waiting to see. And Warren Buffett's even playing the move. So it is interesting. Now, when we take a look at the options flow in SIRI, it is interesting in that there's a couple bigger trades. But the very first thing that comes to my mind is, even though over the last couple days, there was a 10,000 block that went through for the 820s, there's a lot of activity at this 3.5 call handle. And it's going to be very difficult to fully differentiate who is who, but all of this is small trades. So does that mean that the cat could be in here? He absolutely could be, especially because we know a bunch of his money's tied up right now in Chewy. So he doesn't necessarily have the same pile of cash that he typically does to play options like I've seen him before, as I went through the rest of his profile on Reddit to get a sense of what kind of positions he puts on, what his preferences are. But when I look at this, the 3.5s kind of do make sense. They would be close to at the money. The duration would make sense based on what I've seen him do before. It's about a month, it seems, what he likes to get into. So yeah, overall, this does look generally interesting to me for him, but I don't see any other truly conclusive evidence that it would be him versus just somebody else playing something, because again, these aren't large sums of money. So yeah, it's, as always, it's hard to say. And unless we have somebody like Roaring Kitty that kind of comes forward and simply says, yeah, here's my next YOLO update, it would make a lot of sense. But I think the other thing is, a lot of people are kind of, starting to feel like he's shifting around a lot, because we all thought originally super GameStop focused. Then there was a slight pivot to Chewy, whether that's temporary, permanent, nobody knows. I probably guess more towards temporary based on his background, but it does show movement between assets. So then it wouldn't be a far cry to see him start tinkering with other assets again, but don't know, do not know. So it's something that I'll keep an eye on for sure to see if, I can come up with any ideas for it, but nothing's jumping out at me just yet. So the other thing I wanted to talk about quickly is GameStop. And it's really to maintain the cadence. I kind of committed to you guys that I was going to continue looking at this thing at least, I don't know, until I actually didn't pick an end date. So I'm just kind of doing it. But there's not a whole lot to report today, as far as I can tell. So there's a lot of really interesting theories going around, and I think Newton's video is really good. If you guys haven't seen that, I'm sure you have. But if you haven't, you should check it out because he's talking a little bit more about, the qualitative background. And, like I typically say, I'm a trader. So I'm looking at the elements I can trade. I'm learning about the story from a curiosity perspective. But I can tell you from just an information digestion standpoint, I've seen enough people come up with what they think is going to happen. And I've honestly not seen a whole lot of them fully come to fruition. Different elements of the theories I've seen come to fruition. So all of that is to say, I'm waiting until the one thing I know is going to happen before it moves, which is volume. Like I know that. I know volume will move before it moves. So that's what I'm keeping an eyeball on. So right now, volume is just very, very muted. The other thing I want to continue belaboring, though, is that we have earnings coming up on 4 September. Every time I look at this, I'm waiting for this earnings cycle to start jacking up an implied volatility. And it is now just starting to tick up by 1 point. Not moving. It's not moving much at all, which is fascinating to me. Now, open interest is still continuing to expand, both the call and the put side. And if we look at the volume today, an exceedingly light day. 63,000 calls against 17,000 puts. This is one of the quietest days I think I've seen in GME. The activity is centralized in the front 2 expiration cycles for the volume today. So that is a quick update on what I'm seeing. As always, I would love taking a look at anything you guys want to take a look at. We will do a GME live stream specific on Saturday. Yet again, going to keep that cadence going so that we can dig in deeper and deeper, learn more about the product. As you can tell, I'm very interested to do that. So whatever you guys want to look at during that, also let me know. Be an outlier. See you guys later.